What would you do if two American pilots were floating in darkness inside the most dangerous waterway on Earth? And what if the first rescuer coming toward them was not a helicopter, not a ship, but an empty boat with no human aboard? Before this story pulls us under the surface, tap like, subscribe, and share this video with one person who follows world events, because what happened that night may change how wars rescue people forever. This is not just a crash report. It is the moment a machine crossed a line that soldiers believed only humans could cross. To understand the weight of this moment, you need to see the place where it happened. The Strait of Hormuz looks small on a map, almost like a narrow doorway between Iran and Oman, but that doorway carries the energy pulse of the modern world. Tankers pass through it every day with oil and gas for Asia, Europe, Africa, and beyond. When it is calm, prices stay steady and politicians breathe easier. When it feels unsafe, markets shake before most families even know why. That is why a single aircraft falling there is never only a local emergency for commanders. On that Monday evening, the aircraft was an American Apache attack helicopter, one of the hardest working machines in the Army inventory. It was built to fly low, move fast, and punish threats before they can strike. In the Gulf, that mission matters because small hostile boats can appear quickly, and drones can rise from places that look empty only minutes earlier. The Apache gives commanders eyes, speed, and firepower in the exact zone where harassment can turn into combat. Then something went wrong. The helicopter went down, and two aviators were outside their aircraft, alone in the night sea. Imagine being one of them. The cockpit is gone, the engine noise is gone, the training takes over, but fear still has a voice. You check your flotation gear, you look for your crewmate. You scan the black water and the darker horizon. Somewhere out there are friendly forces searching for you, but somewhere out there are enemies doing the same thing. A downed pilot is not just a person in danger. In a place like this, he becomes a prize, a message, a photograph, a bargaining chip, and maybe the spark for a larger confrontation none can control later. Normally, the answer would be simple and dangerous. Send another helicopter, send a rescue boat, send a ship if that is what it takes. Military people accept this because the promise is sacred. If you go down, we come for you. But every rescue asset brings new lives into the same threat ring. A helicopter can be shot down, a boat can hit a mine, a ship can be targeted by missiles from shore. The mission that begins with saving two people can end with a second disaster, and commanders know that brutal truth before they give the order tonight. This time the answer changed. The United States did not first push a crewed rescue craft directly into the kill zone. It sent an unmanned surface vessel, a robot boat, a machine made to move through the water without sailors aboard. It could search, approach, and recover without giving an enemy another group of Americans to threaten. That is the part of the story that deserves more attention than the wreck itself. The Apache mattered. The pilots mattered more, but the method of rescue may matter most because it shows a new way to honor the old promise. Without bleeding, reports say the unmanned boat located the crew, reached them, and carried them to safety in about 2 hours. That time matters. 2 hours in open water at night can feel like an entire life. It is long enough for panic to whisper, long enough for hostile boats to race toward a crash site, long enough for state television to prepare a victory story if prisoners are taken. But it was also short enough for the American side to close the window. By the time Iran could turn those aviators into leverage, the machine had already taken them home safely. This was more than a clever rescue tool doing a useful job. It was a first. American personnel in a combat environment were recovered by an unmanned maritime system, not by a boat full of sailors or another aircraft with a crew exposed to danger. First moments in warfare often look small when they happen. The first tank was awkward, the first aircraft carriers seemed strange, the first drones looked like side projects. Then history catches up and everyone realizes the small moment was actually a door. On this night, another door opened in dark water near Oman for everyone. The Strait of Hormuz is not wide enough to feel comfortable, yet it is important enough to make governments nervous. A huge share of global oil moves through it, along with natural gas that powers homes, factories, ports, and hospitals. When the strait is safe, a tanker captain simply follows the traffic lanes, and the world keeps moving. When the strait is tense, insurance costs rise, shipping plans change, and leaders far away start making calls at strange hours. This is why Iran does not need to close the passage completely to gain influence. It only needs fear to spread. Iran understands the psychology of that fear. Its Revolutionary Guard Navy has spent years building a force that is not designed to beat an American carrier group in a fair fight. It is designed to make every mile costly and confusing. Small boats move fast, they gather in groups, they dart close to commercial vessels, they test reactions, record videos, and retreat before the situation becomes too hot. It is not the navy of a giant power. It is the navy of pressure, patience, and nerves. Against a larger opponent, that can be a very serious weapon in practice daily. The Apache exists in that environment as a warning. It flies where fast boats like to operate. It can see at night, strike with precision, and hit hard at the ranges where small craft try to hide inside the clutter of waves and traffic. For Iranian commanders, an Apache overhead changes the feeling of a patrol. It means the swarm can become the target. That is why losing one matters. It removes a sharp tool from a dangerous place. But the loss also created a test no planner could rehearse perfectly. How do you rescue the crew now under fire? In the first minutes after a crash, every choice is expensive. Commanders have to confirm the location, check for hostile movement, decide which assets can arrive fastest, and judge whether the enemy is trying to turn the rescue into a trap. They also have to think like the other side. If Iran can reach the pilots first, it can change the story instantly. A crash becomes a capture. A military accident becomes a diplomatic crisis. A night patrol becomes a bargaining chip. So the race was not only across water, it was a race for control of the narrative itself tonight. That is the part many people miss. Captured service members are not just prisoners. In a tense negotiation, they become symbols with faces. They become images on screens, proof for one side that it has power, and pressure on the other side to make concessions. Families suffer first, but governments feel the pressure next. Iran has used hostage pressure before, and American planners know the pattern. On this night, 2 soaked aviators could have become the center of every headline on Earth. Instead, they became survivors of a rescue Iran failed to interrupt, and that difference is enormous for Washington. The reason the boat was ready is years of quiet work. Task Force 59, based with the American Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, has been experimenting with unmanned systems across the Gulf. Its mission is not flashy, it is practical. Put sensors where humans cannot safely stay, use robot boats to extend watch over wide areas, combine data from surface vessels, underwater drones, aircraft, satellites, and command centers into a clearer picture. In simple words, build a nervous system for a dangerous sea. When the Apache went down, that nervous system already had hands in the water and eyes nearby. The robot boat was not magic. It was the result of boring tests, repeated failures, software updates, navigation checks, sensor tuning, and commanders willing to trust a new tool before a crisis arrived. That is how military change usually happens. The public sees one dramatic night. But behind that night are engineers in workshops, sailors in exercises, analysts watching screens, and leaders asking whether a machine can be trusted with a human life. Monday answered part of that question. Not the whole question, but enough to shake old assumptions. The boat did not panic. It did not ask why once. Pause here for 1 second, because this is where the story turns from rescue to history. If you want more clear breakdowns without shouting, hit the like button so YouTube knows this matters. Subscribe for the next update, and share this with someone who still thinks robot warfare is a distant future. Now stay with me, because the biggest question is not whether the boat saved 2 lives. It did. The bigger question is what happens when the same kind of boat is sent out not to rescue, but to stop an enemy before the crisis begins at sea again. That question is already alive inside defense circles. A rescue platform proves movement, communication, endurance, and trust under pressure. Add better sensors, stronger engines, or weapons, and it becomes something else. It becomes a patrol craft without fear, a scout without a crew, a shield that can put itself between danger and people. Used alone, one robot boat is useful. Used in groups, many robot boats become a problem that a swarm of hostile speedboats must respect. Iran built numbers to challenge American quality. Unmanned fleets suggest America may soon bring quality and numbers together in the same place simultaneously. This matters because escalation is often about people, not machines. If an Iranian boat harasses a crewed American vessel, every commander sees the faces of sailors who might die if things turn violent. If the same Iranian boat harasses an unmanned vessel, the risk is different. Nobody wants conflict, but the immediate human hostage to fortune is removed. The argument changes from how many lives are at stake to how much hardware may be lost. That does not make war safe. War is never safe. But it changes the threshold. And thresholds shape behavior before shots are fired by anyone. Still, we should be honest about the optics. An Apache at the bottom of the Gulf is a loss. It costs real money. It represents years of manufacturing, training, maintenance, and tactical value. Iran will point to the wreck and say America looks weak. That message will spread because images are simple and strategy is complicated. But a lost aircraft and lost people are not the same thing. The aircraft can be replaced. The crew cannot. More importantly, captured crew members could have changed negotiations, public pressure, and military choices in ways a wrecked helicopter alone cannot ever match politically. That is the hidden victory inside the rescue. The United States lost a machine but denied Iran the human story it wanted. No blindfolded pilots, no forced statements, no photograph used to humiliate families back home, no emergency negotiation built around 2 frightened Americans in custody. In modern conflict, that denial is powerful. Sometimes strength is not the loudest explosion. Sometimes strength is a quiet extraction that prevents the enemy from writing the next chapter. The robot boat did not make a speech. It did not raise a flag. It simply removed the most dangerous card from the table early. Think about the families. Somewhere 2 phones could have carried the worst news a military family fears. Instead, those families heard that their people were alive, stable, and coming home. That emotional truth should not get buried under technology talk. The machine matters because the people matter. The software matters because a parent, spouse, child, or friend did not have to receive a very different call. War stories often become maps, budgets, and acronyms. But every map has names on it somewhere. Every budget line is meant to protect a living person. Monday proved that connection clearly in Darkness Again. Task Force 59 is not only about rescue. Its wider network includes surface drones that watch traffic, underwater vehicles that map what humans cannot see, and systems that help commanders understand a crowded sea faster. Mine hunting is especially important. A mine is patient. It waits without fuel, without a crew, without emotion. One hidden mine can redirect shipping, close lanes, or force expensive clearance operations. Sending divers or crewed ships to find mines is dangerous and slow. Sending autonomous systems first gives commanders information before they risk people. In the Strait of Hormuz, information is the first weapon. Other unmanned platforms can remain below the surface for long periods, listening, watching, and building patterns. They can track unusual movement near shipping lanes. They can follow vessels that switch off signals or move as if they do not want to be noticed. They can quietly tell commanders where trouble is forming before a human patrol would arrive. This is not about replacing judgment. It is about giving judgment better eyes. A commander who sees the sea clearly has more choices than a commander staring into confusion. In a choke point, choices are power, and speed can decide everything very quickly. But there is a harder question underneath the excitement. When machines can rescue, scout, track, and maybe fight, what role should humans keep? Some people hear this story and feel hope because fewer sailors may need to enter deadly water. Others feel uneasy because every step toward unmanned war can make violence feel cleaner than it is. Both reactions are reasonable. Machines can reduce risk for one side, but they can also lower the political cost of acting. The challenge is to use them to save lives, not to make leaders careless with force. That line matters deeply for everyone. The rescue also enters a debate happening far from the Gulf, inside laboratories, air bases, and budget offices. How much trust should a military place in machines that act quickly? A human pilot can judge emotion, intent, and ambiguity. A machine can process sensor data faster and move without fear. The best answer may not be one or the other. It may be teams, with humans setting purpose and limits, while machines do the jobs that are too dull, too dirty, or too dangerous. Monday did not end the debate, but it gave the unmanned side strong evidence under pressure. Now look across the world to the Taiwan Strait. The distance is huge, but the logic is familiar. Another narrow waterway, another powerful state trying to make its presence feel normal, another set of ships and aircraft moving close enough to send messages without starting a shooting war. Chinese forces have repeatedly shadowed foreign ships and pushed aircraft near Taiwan. They do not always need to fire. Sometimes the goal is to teach everyone that their presence is permanent. This is the same slow pressure Iran uses near Hormuz, only on a much larger stage with higher stakes for everyone. That is why navies everywhere are watching the Gulf rescue closely. If unmanned surface vessels can operate under pressure near Iran, people will ask whether they can help in the Pacific. Could robot boats screen larger ships? Could they watch submarine routes? Could they carry supplies between islands when manned transports would be easy targets? Could they confuse an enemy by creating more contacts than human crews alone could manage? None of these questions are theoretical anymore. A real rescue just gave planners proof that unmanned systems can do meaningful work in dangerous water when the clock is unforgiving enough. The same lesson reaches into the race for hypersonic aircraft. At extreme speed, the human body becomes a limit. Pilots can only take so much force. They need oxygen, protection, and a cockpit that adds weight. A machine does not black out. It does not fear death. That makes unmanned designs attractive for missions that demand speed, endurance, and violent maneuvers. Yet humans bring judgment, doubt, restraint, and moral responsibility. The rescue in the Gulf does not prove machines should fly every future mission. It proves machines can carry trust in moments when human risk is almost unbearable to commanders. To understand what comes next with Iran, follow the money as much as the missiles. The Revolutionary Guard is not only a fighting force. It is also an economic power inside Iran tied to ports, smuggling routes, construction, energy, and trade. Control over the strait is not just a matter of national pride. It protects revenue, influence, and internal power. When tension rises, the Guard can present itself as the guardian of Iran while also defending its own interests. That makes the problem stubborn. Even if diplomats sign papers, the people benefiting from tension may resist calm behind closed doors. This is where robot vessels become strategic, not just tactical. If harassment stays cheap, agreements remain fragile. If harassment becomes expensive without automatically risking American lives, the balance changes. Iran can still threaten, it can still send boats, it can still lay mines or fly drones. But each action meets a network that sees more, reacts faster, and can absorb risk differently. Deterrence is not only about threatening punishment, it is also about denying the other side easy success. On Monday night, the robot boat denied easy success. That may be the most important detail of all for strategists today. If this breakdown is helping you see past the headline, do 3 small things for the channel. Press like for the pilots who came home, subscribe for calm analysis when the news gets loud, and share this video in a group chat where people argue about global security without enough context. I promise to keep the language simple and the stakes honest. Now let us go deeper into the hardest part of the story, because the rise of robot rescue forces us to ask what courage means when the first body sent into danger is made of metal and code. For centuries, rescue has been tied to human bravery. A lifeboat crew rows into a storm. A pilot flies through fire. A sailor dives into burning water. We honor those acts because people accept danger for other people. A robot boat cannot be brave in the same way. It cannot feel fear and choose duty anyway. But the decision to build it, send it, and trust it is still human. The courage moves upstream. It belongs to the commanders who act quickly, the engineers who design carefully, and the service members who accept help from something new under terrible pressure. Imagine the moment the pilots realized the rescue craft was not crewed. Maybe they saw a shape first, low on the water. Maybe they heard the engine. Maybe a signal or light confirmed it was friendly. In that moment, the future was not an idea in a policy paper. It was a hull beside them in the dark. It was a way out. The machine did not replace the people who cared about them. It extended those people across dangerous water. That is the best use of technology in war, not to make humans smaller, but to bring them back. The crash cause matters, and we should not pretend to know what investigators have not proven. Helicopters are complex machines. Heat, salt air, low altitude, heavy use, maintenance stress, and sudden mechanical failure can all matter. Hostile action is another question officials must examine, especially in a place where drones, missiles, and small boats create constant danger. But guessing too loudly can make a foggy situation worse. The responsible approach is simple. Separate what we know from what we do not know. We know an Apache went down. We know the crew survived. We know the rescue method was historic. In the hours after any military incident, information becomes a battlefield. One side wants patience. Another side wants advantage. Rumors move faster than official statements. Clips appear without context. Old footage can be recycled as new. That is why stories like this need careful explanation. The easiest version says an American helicopter fell and Iran gained a win. The deeper version says a valuable aircraft was lost, but the crew was denied to Iran, and a new rescue capability revealed itself under pressure. Good analysis lives in that deeper version, where facts, timing, and incentives are all visible at once. 2 hours may sound short from a couch, but in combat it is a long and violent unit of time. A fast boat can cover distance, a drone can launch, a command center can issue orders. A news outlet can write a headline. A family can move from hope to dread and back again. The rescue team had to beat all of that. It had to move through weather, darkness, traffic, and threat, while carrying enough trust for commanders to let a machine take the lead. That is not a small technical detail. That is operational confidence earned slowly. History is full of firsts that looked strange before they looked obvious. The first airplane used in war seemed fragile. The first carrier seemed vulnerable. The first satellite seemed exotic. The first drone strike seemed remote and limited. Then each technology grew around doctrine, budgets, training, and political arguments. The first robot rescue at sea will likely follow the same pattern. At first, people will argue about whether it was an exception. Then they will ask how to repeat it. Then they will build units around it. Finally, they will wonder how anyone operated without it in earlier wars before. Picture a future night in the same strait. A commercial tanker reports suspicious boats closing fast. Instead of immediately sending a destroyer closer, commanders dispatch unmanned vessels to screen the tanker and record everything. The robot boats place themselves between the threat and the ship. They stream video to command centers. They warn the hostile boats to turn away. If the boats keep coming, commanders have options that do not begin with risking sailors. That is the real value. Machines buy time, create distance, gather evidence, and give humans room to make better decisions before emotions take control at sea. Evidence matters because contested waterways are also legal in political spaces. If a country claims it was threatened, video can show what happened. If a boat behaves aggressively, sensors can capture its path, speed, and signals. If a minefield is discovered, maps can prove the danger and help clear it. Unmanned systems do not only act, they witness. That witnessing can stop lies before they harden. It can support allies who need proof. It can reassure shipping companies that lanes are being watched. In the modern world, the camera can be almost as important as the weapon itself at times. Allies will study this closely. Gulf states that depend on shipping need reassurance, but they also worry about being pulled into conflict. European and Asian economies need oil and gas to move freely. India, Japan, South Korea, and many others watch the strait because their energy security passes through it. A robot rescue may sound like an American military story, but it touches every nation that buys fuel, sells goods, or depends on stable shipping. That is why I asked where you are watching from. Your country may be far from Hormuz, but your economy is closer than you think. Inside the United States, this story will also feed a political argument. Some will say the crash proves weakness. Others will say the rescue proves strength. The truth is more complicated. Military operations in contested zones always carry risk, and even the best equipment fails or gets hit. Strength is not the absence of loss. Strength is what happens after loss. Do people come home? Does the enemy gain leverage? Does the mission adapt? On those questions, the rescue gives a strong answer. The pilots came home, Iran lost its chance, and the mission learned something new in real time. None of this means unmanned systems are invincible. They can be hacked, jammed, captured, fooled, or destroyed. Saltwater breaks machines, software has bugs, sensors can misread clutter. Enemies adapt fast when a new tool appears. Iran will study this rescue too. China will study it. Russia will study it. Smaller powers and armed groups will study it. They will ask how to defeat, copy, or confuse these systems. That is the nature of military innovation. Every answer creates a new problem. But once a capability proves useful under pressure, nobody simply forgets it exists after that night at sea. The next fight may therefore be about control. If robot boats become central to rescue and patrol, enemies will try to blind them before they try to sink them. They will jam communication. They will feed false signals. They will spoof navigation. They will hide among fishing boats, civilian traffic, and electronic noise. This means the future of sea power is not only missiles and armor, it is software, encryption, data links, and the quiet battle to know what is real. The rescue showed the promise of unmanned systems. The next crisis may test their resilience under much greater pressure. Doctrine will have to change as well. It is one thing to own robot boats. It is another thing to know when to send them, who controls them, what rules they follow, and how humans step back in if something goes wrong. Rescue missions are emotional. Combat missions are chaotic. Patrol missions are filled with gray areas. A machine can execute instructions, but people must decide the purpose. The real revolution is not the boat alone. It is the new partnership between operators, commanders, code, and machines spread across a sea where seconds can decide history for whole nations quickly. That partnership began in a very human emergency. 2 men were in the water. Somewhere nearby, other Americans were trying to reach them without creating more victims. Somewhere else, Iranian forces were searching for the same location for very different reasons. Above all of it was the pressure of a narrow waterway that the world cannot ignore. The robot boat did not end the conflict. It did not solve the politics of Iran or the future of Taiwan. But it turned a possible disaster into a survival story. And sometimes survival is what keeps history from breaking apart too soon. Before we move toward the end, help this story travel farther than the quick headlines. Leave a like if you believe saving lives should be the first measure of success. Subscribe if you want future updates on unmanned warfare explained without hype. And share this with one person who needs to understand why a small boat in the dark can matter to the whole world. Now let us bring every thread together, because the crash, the rescue, the oil lanes, Iran, China, and the future of war are all connected by one simple idea: risk is being redistributed before us. Risk is the currency of military power. For a long time, powerful countries accepted that protecting a waterway meant placing sailors, pilots, and marines directly inside the danger zone. That risk created restraint, which can be good, but it also created openings for weaker actors to threaten and manipulate. Unmanned systems move some risk away from human bodies and onto machines. That does not remove responsibility. It does not remove the need for caution, but it gives democratic governments more ways to protect people without immediately risking more people. In a dangerous century, that may become priceless for national leaders. So remember the sequence. An Apache went down over the waters near the Strait of Hormuz. 2 aviators survived the impact and entered a race they could not see. Iran wanted opportunity. American commanders wanted rescue without more loss. A robot boat reached the crew first. That is the story in its simplest form, but beneath it sits a shift in power. Machines are no longer just watching the battlefield from a distance. They are entering the most emotional missions, the missions where life and time press hardest against each other, and they are proving useful when it matters most. In the next few years, expect more unmanned vessels in the Gulf. Expect more testing, more patrols, more arguments, and more attempts by adversaries to challenge them. Some will be scouts, some will be decoys, some may carry weapons, some may rescue sailors or pilots in places where a crewed mission would be too risky. Each success will push the concept forward. Each failure will teach hard lessons. That is how the future arrives. Not as one clean leap, but as a series of urgent nights when a new tool either works or it does not under real pressure again. The 2 aviators will likely remember sounds, flashes, cold water, waiting, and the strange relief of seeing help arrive from an empty deck. The rest of us should remember what their survival revealed. The world is changing quietly in the narrow places, in the straits and channels where trade, politics, and military power squeeze together. The next major shift may not announce itself with a carrier or a missile launch. It may come as a small unmanned boat moving through darkness, carrying no crew, carrying no fear, but carrying the weight of a new era for all nations watching closely. So here is the question I want to leave with you. If machines can now reach soldiers faster than humans can, in places humans might not survive, How long before every navy on Earth changes its plans? The Apache crash was the headline. The rescue was the turning point. The Strait of Hormuz is still dangerous, still tense, still vital. But after this night, it is not the same battlefield. Somewhere in that dark water, a boat with no captain carried 2 lives back home, and history moved with them. Tell me what you think comes next in the comments.